Okay, so we're going to start installing the CNC kit, and I'm going to do the Y-axis first. I've already put a little grease. I got all the cosmoline cleaned off this thing, and I put some white lithium grease on the rails here, and I'm going to install the Y-axis, which again I've already greased up. I greased up everything here, X and Y, but we'll put the Y on the slide here, and we'll install the gib. Slide it in there, and it's a 3mm if I remember correctly. Tighten up the gib screws here a little bit. Make sure this thing slides easily, and it does. It's rocking though. A little bit more adjustment. A little bit here. Okay. Make sure it slides back and forth. Relatively easy. Okay. I'm going to try to lock these nuts down while I'm at it. You don't want to wait to do this, by the way. You don't want to wait until you have the CNC, the ball nut. You don't want to wait until you have this in the slot, because you won't be able to freely lock this thing back and forth, rock it back and forth to make sure that the gibs are adjusted properly. And so I'm going to try to, probably should go off and get the wrench to do this, but we'll see how it works out here. And get these lock nuts locked down. Should be it. Too tight. Too tight. I'll loosen them up a little bit. Oh, too far. Okay. Okay. We're good. So, now what we want to do is, now we got the slide on there, we're gonna lay this thing down. Heavy mother. I'm looking at the camera here, and it's pretty dark in there. So I can get some light. How's this? That's more better. See if we can't adjust the camera a little bit. Okay, I think that's better. Now, what we need to do here, by the way, I've already done this on the Y-axis assembly. They left everything loose on here because they intend for it to be taken apart. I've already taken the plate off. This is the motor mount plate. You gotta take the Lovejoy connectors out of here. See if I can get it in the light. Lovejoy. The other Lovejoy here, which by the way has an 1/8 inch SAE set screw. Probably the only thing that you're going to need an SAE wrench for is the Lovejoy right here. And I see the rubber came out of here. Okay, and once you get that stuff off, there's 2 nuts here you got to take out. One. 2. Okay. And there's a couple of bearings on here that fall out, but no big deal. If they fall out, you put them back in. A couple of bearings in here. One on the inside, one on the outside. Yeah. Now, I'm going to say something here. I saw on the internet, on another video, a guy installed this first and then tried to get his bowl screw through here, and not going to work. It's not going to work that way, especially if you had the bearing in here. Okay, you had the bearing in the bottom here, and you install this thing on here like this, you're not going to be able to get the assembly up inside of here through the bearing. There's just not enough leeway. Okay, so he ran into problems. It was apparent that he was in trouble, and the whole time he tried fitting this stuff, he said he couldn't get it to fit right. He had this assembly installed, so we're not going to install that assembly. We've already deviated from his little procedure anyway, because we've already installed the Y slide here. So now I've got this thing adjusted near the end, not quite to the end, but near the end, as you can see. And this is the bowl screw. The longer end is going to go into this slot down here. You can still see it into the slot. Okay, let's get this over here. Here's the slot it's supposed to go into. So what we're going to do is install it this way. Okay, and I'm not, you can see the bottom of it's not right. Okay, so what we're going to do is lift the Y-axis to get the screw to clear the bottom. And if we have to, which we might have to screw this down further. Looks like we do, to get it in here. Okay, bring it down, there you go. Okay, now you're in there. Alright. Now we can install the bearings and this other stuff here. Got grease on this. I don't know how, but Goes like this over the top. Okay. And let's see. Trying to figure out whether the old screws fit or we have new screws. I think we have new screws for that. Find a bag of hardware here. What do I do with it? Look around this one. Bear with me, I'll have to shut it down. I can't find a bag. I'm back. I went off looking for the bag of hardware, but actually didn't need it because the original screws right here that came out of the original end block here fit this assembly. So now screw it down. And this is all live, by the way, my friends. What you see is the first install. I haven't tried installing this first, so there was no, how would you say, rehearsal. Trying to make sure that this thing is somewhat centered and it's level in all planes, so that when it's turning, it doesn't wobble. I'm just going to snug down the set screw, which is 5mm, or is it 4mm? 4mm. I'm going to snug it up. That was right. It is. It was right. It is 5mm. It's hard to get at now because this is in here. This is the set screw that holds the nut block in the slot here. I'm just going to snug it up a little bit. Okay. And put the two nuts back on here. Alright, out of range of the camera there. Well, you still can't see it because I got my big hand in there anyway. But putting the two nuts back on the shaft of the Acme screw. And see if we got the right wrenches here to get it snugged up. Of course, you don't want to be crushing this, you know. So you don't want it too tight. Of course, I got the wrong size wrench here. go back and do this later. The top lock nut. For now, I just want to snug it up for now, like that. Okay, and it's still all loose. This wrench is too thick to allow me to tighten up on the top nut. You know what? Let me get back to you. Okay, I've been playing with this thing for a little while, and I come to realize that you can have some binding here if the rod is not aligned properly, it's not straight down the center, and this nut block is not perpendicular to the slot in the y-axis, to the slot. So when I tighten the set screw here, it pushes on the block. Hope you can see this stuff. I got my camera on a tripod, and I'm in all kinds of weird poses here to try to get a shot of what I'm talking about, but let's see. Here's the block in the slot, and this set screw back here. Some more light on this. The set screw back here pushes on this block, and if everything's not square, you can get some binding. And I found that the best way to adjust this thing is to leave the two screws inside here loose. Leave everything loose. Bring the y-axis up as far as you can to the top, and then tighten the screw down, because that pretty much makes it self-center. And then what I did was I made myself a coupler here on my screwdriver right here to use the Lovejoy, so that I could drive this thing up and down with my power drill. And that's about the best I can get it. So when I brought it up to about here, I had a shortened Allen key that I cut so that I could get it in between here and tighten that set screw down. And actually it's not tightened all the way, because if I really crank down on it, it starts to bind. And so after I got it as close as I could here, as closest to the coupler as possible, that forces it to self-align. Then I tighten the two screws inside the motor mount here, the two mounting screws, and that's where it's going to be from this point on out. I think it's okay, so I'm just going to move on. Okay, so we've come this far. Got a stepper motor here. I bought these from an outfit in Hoffman Estates, Illinois. I don't remember the name of them, but they're on the internet. They're on eBay. And this is an 8-lead stepper motor, not a big deal because you can just put the windings in parallel. It's 425 ounce, and the reason I settled for this, beyond the fact that it ships from the USA, and I got it within a week, a couple of weeks. These have a 1/4 inch shaft, you can see, and they also have a flat, which I like. Okay, and they have a 1/4 inch shaft on both ends, and that was important to me because you look on eBay and you look at all the stepper motors coming from China. I'd say the good majority of them I looked at, I'd say all of them that I looked at, had a 1/4 inch shaft on one side, the primary side, but had a larger shaft on the second side. These are dual shaft motors. They had, I think it's 6.5 millimeter, which is a 1/4 inch, and then they had an 8 millimeter on the back end of it. Why, I don't know. But why it's important to me to have a 1/4 and a 1/4 on both ends is because there's an outfit called Inventables.com, and they have wheels that fit a 1/4 inch shaft, and I want to put a wheel on the end of this, on the back side of it, so that I can turn it manually if I want to. So that's why I wanted a 1/4 inch shaft on both ends. So now that we're up to this point here, we got the Y back on, we're going to put this plate back on, and then we're going to mount the motor. I'll take these 4 screws out of here. So, I just realized that 2 of the screws that came out of this thing, servo mount screws, one is shorter than the other. I don't know why. Boy. Alright, anyway, put this plate back on. A couple cap screws, I think they 3 millimeter. Oh. Plate back on. 1, 2. 4 millimeter. No. 3 millimeter. 1, 2. Okay. And the 2 on the top here, they also are tapped into the aluminum block, this back piece here. And that's why one is longer, they're longer, that's why they're longer, but one is longer than the other for some reason they supplied. The 2 here are relatively short screw. You can see the difference. Well, maybe you can't, I don't know. Anyway, the 2 shorter ones are the ones that go on the back side of the servo. The 2 longer ones go up front here. Why one is much longer than the other, I have no idea, but it might not matter. We're about ready to find out. And so, I'll line this Lovejoy up. want to line it up so that the Allens are visible. Just went the wrong way. One on the bottom is already tight. One on the top. Where am I going with this? Keep overshooting my target here. There you go. Where is it? There it is. Okay. Well, I got to remember to tighten that lock nut up there too. I forgot. I forgot to lock to tighten those two nuts, so I'll be back. I got to get a wrench. Okay, I'm back and ready to mount the motor. And I recall this from another video. Guy had trouble with the length of the shaft inside the Lovejoy. It was bottoming out on the rubber portion, and he chose, in his video, he chose to fix the problem by drilling into the rubber, relieving the rubber piece. I just used a Dremel tool to cut the shaft off by about 1/8 of an inch. Okay, that's perfect. Would help if I used the right size. Okay. And let me see. I don't know which way I want this thing to go, to tell you the truth, the wiring. I need to change it. I got it coming out the bottom right now. It can go right or left, so I need to change it later. I'll change it. I got to remember the red one is SAE. So having to cut the shaft on a servo motor is, well, 6 1/2 dozen the other, I guess. You do what you got to do. But I do remember watching his video, and he had some interference, and he couldn't get his stepper motor to fit on. It wouldn't sit flat on the plate here, and that's because the shaft was hitting the top of the rubber piece of the Lovejoy, and so he took it over on a drill press, and I guess he drilled a hole in the center of the rubber there so that a shaft would fit down inside of it and wouldn't hold the motor up over the top of the mount here. I would rather just cut the shaft. It's easier for me. Of course, for any replacement motor you got to put in here, you'd have to cut the shaft again, but it is what it is. Okay, so we got the Y in there, finally. To do the X, I'm gonna have to stand it up, so I'll be back.